Agreed. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next notice of motion on Code of Conduct. Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I brought this motion as there appears to be different interpretations between the Ombudsman's office and that of Council on declarations of interest, what should be declared and what one should do if one does declare, whether they stay or whether they go. This can be significant. Therefore, I am requesting that the Ombudsman is invited the earliest opportunity to come in and clarify a number of issues which will in turn help inform councillors and council when reaching their decisions on issues of declarations. For example, there's been an issue this evening, SIF, and whenever you mention SIF now, everybody runs out the door. There was 2/3 of the councillors left this evening. However, on the same topics last year, nobody left, or the year before, by and large, nobody left, and yet the rules haven't changed. It's just one's interpretations. Membership, another one would be membership of a church where members attend seem to have to declare an interest and leave the room. Taking that to its limits, a church that is a worldwide church, therefore, hypothetically speaking, is it the case that that church hall, for example, in the Antrim Road, is in for monies or funding to extend it or improve it, or does that mean that the members of that church have to declare an interest and need to leave the room? This can be replicated with sporting and cultural organisations such as the IRFU, IFA, GAA, Orange Order and so on. Clarification is needed on this. We are all members of the NAC. If an NAC issue comes up, are we all supposed to declare an interest and leave the room? Therefore the issue in hand wouldn't be discussed or debated. Is it appropriate, say, for example, if somebody who works for the Vintners Association to sit in a licensing committee where entertainment licensers have been discussed, should they declare an interest or should they stand and make decisions? Should a member declare an interest and leave the room if the organisation comes into the council seeking funding if a family member works for that particular organisation? Should members declare an interest if an organisation comes seeking funding or help and the organisation or people involved are members or family members is a member of a political party who in fact they are presenting in front of? Councillor Campbell referred earlier to an issue of concern at the last SPNR meeting. I could continue on with various examples of various reasons. So I think it's reasons like this that we need to bring in the Ombudsman to get clarification on issues of those concerns.
Sorry, Councillor, just for clarity, are you looking to amend your motion to bring the Ombudsman in, or?
I can't remember my motion.
Because you just said for a need for clarity around the Code of Conduct and guidance. So obviously there was guidance issued today by Council around the Code of Conduct. So are you looking more than that? Or?
Well, I think the obvious thing would be to bring the Ombudsman in, because that's. I think the problem is that you get clarification that maybe isn't the interpretation, that their interpretation may not be the same as our interpretation, and I think therein lies the problem, and I think that the clarification from the Ombudsman might be more helpful.
But what course of action are you looking? That's all. So how do you want that clarification? You'd mentioned about the Ombudsman coming in to a meeting. Yes. Is that what you're requesting?
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
To SPNR?
Well, to whatever.
Okay, so you're going to make that amendment just to your motion then, that the Ombudsman is invited in on this issue to the SPNR committee? Okay,
that's fair enough, yeah. Okay, it was just, I thought there was implicit in what I said, but maybe it's not. But it's just, I saw what came through this evening, but I would need about a week and a half to read that and read it again before I could understand.
That's the up-to-date guidance which has been reissued, so I know it was sent out before Christmas and it was reissued to all members today, so I would advise everyone to read it. And again, this is on a case-by-case basis in terms of conflicts of interest, so not everything will run across all councillors, and it will depend on each councillor's unique circumstance, and that's up to each of us as individuals then to raise that. But we can take your proposal in a minute, Declan, around inviting the Ombudsman in as well. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm now going to call on the seconder, Councillor Mullen.
I'll be very quick. I'm just happy to second the motion, and I think it has been apparent over the last few council meetings and committee meetings that there is confusion around the interpretation of the Code of Conduct between the direction from Legal Services and Council and the advice given by the Ombudsman's Office. And really, confusion is not the way to progress council business. I have no problem with having a Code of Conduct, but I think clarity is urgently needed to allow councillors to operate without the concerns about the various interpretations of the code. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a number of speakers, and then we'll just deal with the issue at the end, okay? You really don't want to because you were named, do you? Councillor Campbell, because you were named briefly. People, please stop naming each other, okay? Do it through the chair.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ardvira. And I just wanted to clarify that when I was speaking earlier, it wasn't about a declaration of interest. My issue was the behaviour of a councillor to his staff member.
Okay, yeah, that's sound enough. Thank you. Councillor Bunting.
It was a great relief to see that it was not only myself who was seeking clarity around the Councillor's Code of Conduct. I feel that the Code is a tedious bureaucratic farce, and I really do welcome this motion tonight. I would like to make a slight amendment, and it's simply to take out in respect of the declarations of interest. And I believe that the Code of Conduct itself is flawed, and with investigation it may be found to infringe on councillors' basic human rights. I believe the Code can and is being used as a political weapon. In my case, it's being used by a cabal of leftist, socialist Republicans who have ganged up to mass report me to the local government commissioner for standards for speaking uncomfortable truths, both inside and outside the chamber.
Okay, sorry, we just need to give a bit of advice in that there's ongoing proceedings at the moment, Councillor, so I don't want you getting in other waters then that's going to impact on those proceedings.
No,
so just to advise to choose your wording, carefully, or I'm going to have to stop you from going any further, so I will guide you on that.
I believe it's all completely undemocratic that I, as an elected representative, have been suspended and therefore unable to speak on behalf of my constituents in Court DEA for 3 months now. Any document which stops an elected representative from expressing legitimate concerns cannot be something of any use to any governing body. I know there are many in this chamber who will never agree with my politics, and I theirs. However, I believe that they have the right to express their point of view, even though I totally disagree with it. So why am I not being afforded the same rights? My case is the first of its kind. The Commissioner has suspended me while he carries out the investigation. This is completely unprecedented. A councillor who was convicted of serious sexual assault on a teenage girl remained in office for over a year before eventually being kicked out.
Councillor, you need to watch Brian and the other cases in terms of processes which don't relate to this case, so I'm advising you again, or at some point I'm going to have to ask you to sit down. So I'm asking you again to choose your words and what you're saying in your speech there very carefully.
Contrast this to my case. I have broken no laws. I haven't been so much as questioned by the police. I simply spoke out about the two biggest and most dangerous problems I see facing us today, not just here in Belfast or the United Kingdom, but the entire Western civilization, Islam and immigration, and I'm treated worse than a convicted sex offender.
Sorry,